Hello, I think this is my normal voice. I was playing around with a voice changer, so I might sound completely weird. Welcome to SquishiVision, where I'm, in this instance, giving my immediate thoughts on uh, The Falcon and Winter Soldier, The Star-Spangled Man, the episode 2 of the six-part series. I've immediately just watched it, so this is my kind of reaction, having just watched it and not really formed any sort of opinion. But can we just admire how good my green screen is today? It's actually behaving, for the most part, fairly well. Usually it kind of phases out somewhere or another. I'm kind of impressed by how well it's being. I don't know. I'm probably gonna move at some point and it's gonna ruin it all. But that's not by the by, really, isn't it? This episode is great. It's great. This show is great. Um, yeah. So Bucky and Sam kind of grouped up fairly without hassle. I was expecting the fact because they kept their characters so like separate in the first episode that there was going to be some kind of work needed to get them together, but no, pretty much in their individual second and first scenes respectively together, they just kind of were like, yeah, let's team up, and then there was great from that on. Their dynamic is absolute great, absolute like comedy gold. Like the scenes with them in the therapy session together was just amazing and funny, and like every single, I don't know why that thing has gone off. Every single back and forth they did was hilarious. Um yeah, it was just so great. It was so great, so natural and so heartfelt, and it's like it's also interesting because like Marvel has a reputation for doing quips, and I think even after Whedon exit, I should have kept my voice thing on. I could have censored his name. Ever since he left the project, the Whedonism still stayed in the whole Marvel thing, and these Marvel quips, you either love them or you hate them, really. But like some, people who are into Marvel really like these quips. People who don't like the tone that Marvel made really dislike these quips and like dislike the light-hearted comic book nature of it. Even though quipping is comic booky, I think this show's actually doing a very good job at having kind of very grounded. I don't know. It's still quipping, but it seems much more casual quipping, like that people would actually do. So yeah, I mean, the two protagonists are great, and it's like we we're telling some really they're using the characters very well to express some quite like hard hitting themes. Like use like they're really they're really playing into the fact that Sam's a person of color and Sam's a black man as a superhero and what that means. Um but it's like they're balancing very well. It's very hard hitting. It's very on the point. It's very it's not disguising it, but it doesn't seem pandering. It doesn't seem um talking down. It doesn't seem condescending. It's playing it quite. I think it might help that just because it's a superhero, you don't expect this kind of stuff in a superhero film. You don't expect it to be such a predominant part of the story it's telling in a superhero visual medium like a film or TV show. You don't expect this level of concentration on it. It seems very kind of actually grounded. Um, so like the way that they I don't know. I had no, I'm not no. Actually no. I'm gonna I thought about what I was about to say. I'm not gonna say it. The way that they depicted how the police interacted with Sam was spot on. Showed the complete kind of imbalance between how U.S. cops would deal with a black person, how U.S. cops would deal with a white person. Um, the whole thing about Sam being outraged that there was a black super soldier for like 70 years and nobody knows about him is was like an excellent inclusion. I was doing some reading, so this actually goes much deeper because it actually goes very much into comic book lore. So Isaiah Bradley in the comic books what happened in at least one continuity of the comic books is whilst they were trying to replicate Steve Rogers' Captain America, they experimented on I think it was like 500 African Americans. The U.S. Army did to try and replicate superhero serum, and then once they finished with that, they kind of just like discarded them. Like that's like not at all unrealistic, but like for a story that they told in the comic books and then brought back was a yeah, that was a good choice. That's and I hope we do more with it. Oh, I hope we get something more with Side Bradley, but even if it's not his character coming back, getting something with how what this means to Wilson, because that's like heavy stuff, really, if you think about it. Yeah, and like Bucky's whole attitude, the entire like show was great. Like it was, I like how they're playing up this dynamic of how Bucky's annoyed on behalf of Steve because he would be. Because I think I said this last week as well. We haven't really done much with Bucky as a character. He's mostly a plot device, but and because he's mostly been an antagonistic plot device, Sam's had to really take the role of the sidekick to Captain America, and so we know a lot about how Captain America and Sam have this kind of relationship, but and because of that, we don't really focus. We never really got this kind of reconciliation between Captain America and between Steve Rogers and Bucky. Like we never had on screen anyway. We never had that moment because because the entirety of Winter Soldier he was antagonistic, and then in Civil War they were on the run the entire time, and then after Civil War Bucky got frozen, and then in Infinity War they were fighting and then he was snapped away, and then after he came back they were fighting again, and then Steve lived his life away from Bucky, so we never had this moment where Bucky and Steve were like not were able to actually just chill and have time together, at least as far as we could see. So you can see why this would upset him, that his friend's last kind of wishes to his other friend were like ignored in the way that they were. But on the other hand, I think it's very interesting that we're dealing with kind of the whole attitude of a black superhero and what that means and the responsibility of that and the kind of prominence and response and yeah and why why Sam would be kind of reluctant to take up the shield, and then he's called and how but also how he'd be like pressured into not taking it up so they could give it to a white person. So that's great. It's I haven't worked out what I think about how they're playing John Walker, who's Captain America now. Um, so he has no powers, right? He's just a normal average person, right? That's his deal. Because it doesn't really explain. Like he can use the shield, like to the same degree of skill that Captain America had. Are we just meant to assume that's because he's extremely skilled? Like there's no, because we're meant to assume really the reason why Captain America is so good with his shield is because he has peak human ability and dexterity with it. So we meant to assume this guy has like similar levels of power just purely by training alone. Um like I don't know if there's even more to that or if if that all there is to it. So I'm interested in that because it basically it ends up both getting their like butts kicked by the super soldiers. It's like, well, what's the point of you? Like, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do if you have a whole bunch of terrorists targeting you because you're the poster boy for American patriotism and you don't have the ability to really deflect bullets the same way that Captain America could do. Um, like I expect them to come out with some sort of like they've like technologically improved him or they've used some kind of new serum or whatever. But apparently he's just a very athletic person. So it's been interesting to see what they do with that really. But in terms of like his motivations, I think that's great. I think it's great how off the bat they're putting doubts in our brain about is he antagonistic just because Sam and Bucky hate him, or is he antagonistic because he has other motivations? But I mean, and this kind of alleviates my fears from last week because I was pointing out how the political kind of nuance of this show could potentially be very problematic if we're going along a message about how nationalism is good and borderless states are bad. But really, in this episode, they paint the flag smashers somewhat sympathetically. I mean, other than stealing the medication, well, they're stealing medication for camp, so that's not a you know that's not a malevolence. That's a word. Malevolent motivation. That's quite altruistic. That's very Robin Hood like. Um, and whilst they're portraying, John Walker as being quite shady. So that's interesting, and I'm hoping they continue that nuance because that alleviates my fears a whole lot about what I was ranting excessively about last time. um, but yeah, although like I don't know who this other guy is, this Hopkins guy. That's like some random guy, like some random black guy. He's decided, well, no, it's his mate obviously, but it's like some random guy who's like tagging along with him, who has absolutely no abilities and just keeps getting. I mean, I don't know if that's meant to be a commentary on like the whole sidekick thing. I don't know if I'm meant to like if he's meant to be kind of the foil to a Sam and be a bit more of a kind of a hapless sidekick kind of character. But it's like just yeah, it was just randomly there, swinging on a helicopter, kicking people off with absolutely no ability, and pretty much got restrained like almost immediately. Um, so yeah, I mean, yeah, none of it's kind of genre subverting, but it's interesting the direction they're going to isn't exactly where we expect it to go, and it's playing a lot of kind of themes and a lot of nuance and a lot of characters in a very kind of artful direction. I think they're being very deliberate with their strokes that they're doing, and so I can't really conclude where they're heading, but it's leading to somewhere. And like I said, the flag matches they portrayed quite sympathetically. Um, And then the action pieces were also kind of great. They weren't as great as last week, but they were still great. Yeah, it's interesting because they're playing the politics into situation as well. It's like, what's the motivations of different individuals and stuff. I guess the really kind of weird thing is though, because we're meant to assume in the MCU, a lot of what people were doing scientifically in Phase One was to try and catch up with the Captain America, but then we're kind of slowly retconning all that to say, oh yeah, no, we were able to do a whole bunch of this before. I mean, normally the implication is that Steve was the only one who came out of it without any kind of negative side effects, and everyone else had kind of some um something went wrong with some of the other people, but we haven't really kind of established how it works with even Bucky affair, to be fair. Um yeah, no, this show's doing very interesting things with race theory. Um so yeah, I'm definitely interested to see where it goes next, and it definitely I like how they did a big band version of the Star Spangled Man from the first Captain America film. That was a nice callback. I have to listen back to that because I like that. I like big band covers of things, so that was a fun kind of little Easter egg. Is it an Easter egg callback? There. But yeah, I'm interested. Oh, I like that moment where like Bucky grabbed a shield midair, kind of just like out of instinct, and then he immediately got taken off him. That was funny. Yeah, we meant to see what John Walker can like throw the shield that well. But the way that I don't know, I can't tell if it's like less than perfect CGI or if it's deliberately less than perfect CGI. There's something very weird about how that scene was shot, where the shield bounced on low targets and then came back as if it was meant to look kind of fake. But I don't know if it's meant to look kind of fake or if it's just because it was obviously CGI. Um, and it just kind of looked that way anyway. It's hard to tell with these kind of things, isn't it? I guess it's the interesting way you can play around with meta and TV. Um, yeah, I think that's all I've got to say. Keep it nice and short and sweet, but yeah, that was great. And then we've got like Zemo in from the next episode. I really hope Zemo doesn't escape by like some sort of cringy supervillain kind of someone makes a stupid mistake and he gets out. Like I hope it's not something as clunky as that. Next session. Next session? What is this? Why am I calling it a session? Why are these episode sessions now? It's not therapy. It's not D&D. I'm so used to both of those things in my life. I just refer to it as a session. Yeah, time for my session of Marvel. Right. Clearly, I'm exhausted, and I need to finish off what little scraps my pasta has left, so I can go. And I don't know actually why I need to do that. I can just leave a pasta here and munching it all night. I have literally nothing else to do. Um, apart from clearly start having an aneurysm. Right. Cheers, guys. I'll see you next week. I think I partially don't want to hang up this call. What am I talking about? What words am I using? It isn't a call. I'm streaming to the internet. I'm not on the call with anyone. I think I'm losing it. Why am I losing it? I'm having a nervous breakdown. I think partially why I don't want to end this broadcast is I'm so impressed by how good the green screen is today. What have I done that's different? Is it literally like like this? Is it just because? No, I don't know. What is different with my lighting that's not normally the case? Right, I'll see you guys next time. Before I continue, before I go too far.